Okay. Welcome to the first workshop for the Research Methods module. Does anyone have any questions before we start? Question. The question is how to access the Teams chat. There are two ways to access the Teams chat. The first way is from the first lecture. The first lecture had a lecture slide with a link at the bottom. The second way is on Moodle. So if you can find the Moodle page for this module, you can scroll down here and there it is. MS Teams group for research methods, and you can click there to join. Any other questions before we start? I hope everybody's able to find the Moodle page for this module because all of the content is on there. So you have the Teams link, you have a lectures playlist on YouTube. You have the lectures playlist from last year on YouTube if you want to have a look at like what's coming. It's not going to be exactly the same, but there will be some overlap. Another question?
I'm not able to request.
You're not able to send a request?
I sent a request.
Yeah, so then
That's
I have to approve it. Yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? So you have to send a request to join the Teams. I'm still having a sore throat, so I might have to stop sometimes. One minute. Okay, can I speak? Any other questions before we start? So on Wednesdays, usually we're going to have lectures. And on Fridays, usually we're going to have workshops. And the workshops have different themes that are focused on your dissertation and the courseworks. And they're more participatory, so they're active learning as opposed to passive learning. So the lectures are generally passive learning, and the workshops are generally active learning, where you engage and actually participate. So today's workshop is about conducting meetings. Raise your hand if you've ever been in a meeting before. Raise your hand if you've never been in a meeting before. That would be surprising. You're going to have lots of meetings, a lot, thousands, from now until you pass away. So this workshop is about how to conduct an effective meeting. So for anybody that's been in meetings before, have you ever been on your way to a meeting and thought to yourself, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do to prepare for this meeting, or I don't feel prepared for this meeting? It's a good thing I brought this. I wasn't expecting to have trouble speaking. I've been speaking fine up until now, most of the days. Has anybody ever been in a meeting? You're sitting in a meeting, and you've thought to yourself, like, haven't we already talked about this before? Like, this subject seems like we've already talked about it. Anybody ever have that experience? So it's almost like a feeling going in circles. Have you ever walked away from a meeting? You left a meeting, and you thought to yourself, I have no idea what I'm supposed to take away from that meeting. What am I supposed to remember, or what am I supposed to do as a result of that meeting? Anybody ever have that feeling? Have you ever finished a meeting, you're walking away, and you think, oh, that meeting was a waste of time. Like, there's nothing got done in that meeting. Anybody ever have that feeling before? Yeah. So today, that's all going to change. That's all going to change. It's because when you have a meeting, most meetings have no plan. They have no plan and no structure. That's the default. That's how most meetings are conducted. But if you want to have an effective meeting, you need a plan and a structure. So today we're going to talk about a plan and a structure, and you're going to practice it in the class, because we're going to have a meeting here. So these are things that are very common for ineffective meetings. By the way, most of the meetings are ineffective. Most of the meetings you will have between now and the rest of your life will be ineffective. There will be no plan and there will be no structure. But you can change that. Sometimes you can't, but at this university you certainly can. So common problems are leaving a meeting not knowing what to do, or not really understanding what the takeaway is, arriving at a meeting unprepared, or not being sure about how you're supposed to prepare, having no idea when the next meeting is. Very, very common, right? You go away and you feel very lost because you have no idea when the next meeting is. You might arrive at a meeting and then forget, oh, what were we even talking about at the last meeting? I have no idea. I can't remember. That was before Christmas. Like, that information is gone out of my memory. It's easy to get lost in meetings. Right? You might be discussing something and you just feel lost. You've diverted your attention away, and then you regain your attention and you feel lost. Some meetings run overtime as a result of being unstructured and unplanned and going in circles. That will cause meetings to run overtime. And again, some meetings go in circles. And you might be thinking, oh, I'm sure we've discussed this before, but I can't pinpoint it exactly when and in what context we've discussed this. So today we're going to learn about Bob's Minutes of Meeting protocol that provides a structure and a plan for every meeting. So the meeting is structured, right? The time is structured and the content is structured. The content is organized into 3 sections: topics discussed, progress since the last meeting, and the to-do list for after the meeting, right? The things you're supposed to work on. So by having this structure, it's very simple, by the way. This is not complicated. It's very, very simple. And if you think it's simple, you're correct. It's very, very simple. The structure provides continuity in memory. Every time you're on your way to a meeting, you can look at the minutes of meeting from the previous meeting to understand, okay, what do I need to do to prepare for this upcoming meeting? So there's no more forgetting, right? And every meeting has a to-do list. And that to-do list encourages decisive action before the next meeting. What am I supposed to do before the next meeting? Large tasks, like your dissertation, are broken down into smaller tasks that can be accomplished in 1 or 2 weeks' time. That's the idea behind the to-do list. So this is what the protocol looks like. It has the current date and the current start time. It has the name of each person in the meeting and the name of each person that's absent from the meeting, right? If there are people that are supposed to be there. There's a list of topics discussed. That's the first section. There's a list of progress. That's the second section. So those are things that you did since the last meeting that have gotten you further along. That's your progress. And then a to-do list, the things to work on before the next meeting, and then the date and time of the next meeting. That's all encapsulated in this minutes of meeting protocol. And then a copy of the minutes of meeting are kept online in a collection for everybody to have a look at. So everybody involved can see that collection. An easy solution to this is just to keep them in a Google Doc, right? That's an easy solution. This is what a typical minutes of meeting file could look like. Right? It has the names of each person. It has the date, the start time, and the end time. It has the date and time of the next meeting there. It has a list of topics discussed. It has a list of progress. And look, each item is associated with a person. And then there's a to-do list, itemized to-do list for each person in the meeting, what to do to prepare for the next meeting. That's what your minutes of meeting should look like. Does that make sense? And this is a collection of minutes of meeting. Like if you have a bunch of meetings you collect them together online. And it could look like this. It could just also be in a Google Doc. It's up to you. But anyways, you have the whole collection of minutes of meeting for the duration of your project, whatever that project is you're working on. So this is how I conduct all of my meetings, all of them, right? And I've supervised, undergraduate students, master's students, PhD students. Sometimes I've supervised like a student with their bachelor's project, their master's project, and their PhD all in a row. And then we have 4 or 5 years of minutes of meeting, and it's absolutely amazing. It's like totally historic. We'll look back at 4 years to see, oh, what were we talking about 4 years ago? And it's amazing, actually. Okay, so some of you are going to be thinking, well, that's nice, Bob, but my supervisor doesn't use that protocol, right? That's because no supervisor uses this protocol. None of them. You will never have a manager or a supervisor that uses this protocol. Like I said, most of your meetings will be unstructured, unplanned, and kind of random, right? But you can still use this protocol. You can ask your manager or your supervisor, when is the date and time of our next meeting? You can ask that and write it down. If you do, your manager or your supervisor will be like, oh my gosh, who is this student? Like, this is amazing. They're going to be very impressed. You can keep a list of all the topics that you discussed during the meeting. Right? A manager and a supervisor typically don't do that. And then you can solicit your tasks for the next meeting list. So you can write down your to-do list. And after you've written it down, you can ask your supervisor, so I've got this on my to-do list. Does this sound good to you? Like, do you agree with this set of things I need to do? Or what do you think I need to do before our next meeting? Can we discuss that? If you say these words in a meeting to your supervisor is going to be absolutely shocked. They're going to be like, I've never had a student like this, so intelligent in my meetings before. They will be absolutely shocked. And then, guess what? Here's a quiz question for you. When you enter a meeting with your supervisor, what do you think that they're thinking? So you step into the room, you're like, I'm here, and there's your supervisor there. You can read your supervisor's mind with experience. What do you think your supervisor's going to be thinking when you enter the room? I like to practice kind of, I don't know if it's like a little bit of telepathy, a little bit of psychic reading, a little bit of, like sixth sense powers, if you want to call them that. Sometimes I can read minds. Sometimes I know what people are thinking. I can anticipate what they're going to think because people behave in similar patterns over and over and over again. Anybody want to guess? What is your supervisor going to be thinking when you step into their office? Or your manager? You can read their minds. I can read their minds. I know what they're thinking. Anybody want to take a guess? Does anybody here like psychic development or psychic powers or telepathy or anything like that? I love that stuff. What do you think?
What does she have for me?
Yes, that's right, that's right. She said, what does she have for me? Or, another way of formulating that is, what progress have you made? That's what they're thinking. They want you to say, what progress have you made? Right? That's the list of progress. That's what they're thinking when you enter their office. What progress? They might not say it right away. There's usually some small talk, but it's there. And they're just waiting for you, hoping, like, oh, please, please report your progress. Please, please, please. And that's in the minutes of meeting protocol. If you have a list of progress, if you go to a meeting prepared with a list of progress, you are going to get shocked. You're going to shock the world. Your supervisor's going to be shocked. If you go to a job and have a list of progress and you show that to your manager, or you discuss that with your manager, you will immediately get a raise. You will immediately get promoted because you're the first person to ever do that. Good? By the way, when you follow this protocol, you will avoid lots of painful and unnecessary email. Right? When you follow this protocol, the number of emails that you have to send back and forth will shrink dramatically. Right? Because otherwise, you're sending lots of email back and forth to try to get this information. Like, dear Bob, when is our next meeting? That's a horrible email to be sending back and forth. Horrible. How do you find the protocol? You can download it from Moodle. There's a copy of it on Moodle. And you can also Google it, Bob's Minutes of Meeting Protocol. It's freely available online. Any questions about that? It's simple, right? It should be simple because it is simple. It's not earth-shattering. It's perfect for a Friday afternoon. Any questions about that? Another question?
So, when we make the minutes of meeting in Bob's protocol, can it be any particular format, or do we have to use the exact same?
You want to stick to this format. Yes, yes, that's right. Stick to the format in the protocol. Okay, so now we're going to have some active learning. Today's workshop exercise. Today we practice the minutes of meeting protocol. We're going to have a meeting now, and you're going to practice. So we're going to split into groups of 6 to 8 people. You're going to, as a group, you're going to start a Google Doc and write the name of each person at the top. Right? If you don't have a Google account yet, you might want to create one. Right? Because we're going to be using Google Docs a lot, and Google a lot throughout the module. Right? Then, in the topics discussed section, you're going to ask each person in the group 3 questions. What is your greatest achievement? What is one thing you would like to change about yourself? And what is something you would like to learn in this module? And you're going to write it down in the minutes of meeting under the topics discussed for each person. And then in the to-do section, you're going to propose 2 items for each member of the group to do within the next week, related to your studies here, right? For example, start looking for a research paper to read, or maybe contact potential supervisors, or, I don't know, find a place to live, whatever it is you need to get done, right? And then the last step is to share the Google Doc with me. So when you've finished, you share the Google Doc, right? And I will look at some of them in class in the second half and show you what happens. Some of you will make mistakes. You won't follow the protocol properly, and I will point out the different errors that you make. Some of you will succeed, some of you will actually follow it, and it will look just very nice. And some of you won't. Some of you will mess it up, and then I can say, okay, you got this part right, but this part's not right. Any questions?
Why Google Docs? We will have access to Microsoft Word with our accounts, so surely that would be better so we don't share personal emails with each other.
I think based on my experience of teaching this class and collaborating, I've tested out both, and I find Google Docs to be much easier. It's really, really much easier. I've had so many problems with Microsoft Word and Teams, synchronization problems. There are no synchronization problems with Google Docs. Any other questions? Okay, so let's start. I'm going to recommend the groups. I'm going to walk around and just recommend the groups, yeah? But who's the, fine. So could you six form a group?